Hi, okay. I'm delighted to welcome Arafat from Cape Town joining us today. Now, you have an incredible story that takes you from the Republic of Congo right down to Cape Town and then swimming from Robbin Island, a 12-kilometre swim. So quite an unusual story. There's not something that all of us can relate to. So thank you for joining us today. And yeah, would be keen to just find out a little bit more about you, if that's okay. So do you mind just telling us a little bit then about where you were born and where you are now and a little bit of your life story, if that's okay?
Basically, I'm originally from DRC Congo. I left the country in 2012 due to war and made my journey to South Africa with my two cousins and my sister. We came to South Africa to look for our aunt that lived here. And when we got here, we didn't have a place to live. My aunt lived in a shelter, and we ended up in a street children's home. Myself and my cousins, and my sister ended up in a shelter with my aunt. And that is how our life in South Africa started. And the children's home we lived in, the kind of kids that were in the children's home were kids that were mostly used to a life on the street and drugs. And like mostly finding hope was something that was very difficult. And most of it, we found it through education and different activities that were provided by volunteers.
Wow, gosh, lots to do with. So you left Congo at what age then?
I was 17 years old. Yeah, when I left and when I got in South Africa, I was 17.
Am I correct in thinking that you walked to Cape Town? Is that?
Not really. We got a lot of help. Like every time I speak to people, they like to use the walking, and it was mostly the help from people getting lifts. And yeah, we got a lot of help. The walking was not a lot. It was just here and there, but most of the time was just we relied on people to help us to get here.
Still an incredible journey. Am I correct? It's 5 countries, 3,400 kilometers, and you.
Yeah, so we traveled through Burundi, Rwanda, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. So to get to South Africa, we had to go through all those countries.
Wow, wow. Certainly something that not many people can relate to, but we're pleased that you're safe and you got to South Africa. And then, but as you said, then it wasn't all perhaps plain sailing once you got to Cape Town. There was still some challenges and stuff. So yeah, so what got you onto the swimming then? How did that connection work?
So when we arrived at the children's home, like I mentioned, that it was very difficult for us to find hope, because when I got there, I also found myself in the same boat, not having something to aspire to, something to wake up to. And when I started school, and then I started to find a little bit of hope to a better future in life. And then there were some extra programs that we had, and swimming was one of the programs. And a volunteer called Marian Wegner, she's the one who led the program at the homestead. And we went every Thursday at the Long Street swimming pool. For those who know Cape Town, and they should know where Long Street is. So there was a swimming pool, and they invited me to join the program, and I was very excited because it was going to be my very first time to be in a swimming pool. And I found myself in a shallow end where I jumped and played around because I couldn't swim very well. And when I was swimming, when I was playing in the water, I realized that swimming took me away from the outside world. I didn't have to think about what I'm going to eat tonight or where I'm going to sleep tonight. It was so therapeutic, and ended up wanting to do it more. That's how I got very interested and started watching YouTube videos at the Central Library in Cape Town. Watched a few Olympic videos. And the next time when we went to swim, I stood on the diving block and tried to jump in like the way, or like what I watched, and tried to swim butterfly, but I just ended up swallowing water instead.
But you
Yeah, and yeah, so the volunteer came and approached me and said, "Hey, Arafat, I see you trying to swimming butterfly. Would you like to learn?" And then I said, definitely, I would love to learn how to swim butterfly and swimming in general. And she started to show me how to swim. And afterwards, like on the next, I continued coming to swimming. And one evening, when she brought people who wanted to sponsor a boy from the homestead to swim from Robbin Island to Big Bay, I was at school, so I was not there, and they chose another boy to swim, to do the swim. And when I got the homestead, they told me about the news. I was, wow, I felt like a bit jealous, but not in a bad way. They kind of wanting to do the same.
Yeah.
I had never been in the ocean before. I didn't know where Robbin Island was. I had no idea how cold the water was. And then I got on the phone, I called Marion. I was like, "Hey, Marion, is it possible if I can join the boy they chose to swim to his swimming club?" And he had private classes as well. So Marion was able to get me into the same swimming club as the boy. But the boy was getting better and better because he had extra classes. And one day I asked him, he used to go every Saturday morning to go for his private classes. I asked him one day to go with him in Sea Point where he had his private classes, and he said he will speak to his sponsors. And when he did, with my hesitation, I said, "You can come." And that's how I got into training for Robbin Island. I remember the water was about 16 degrees at the Sea Point swimming pool. And when I jumped in, I thought someone had hit me with a brick on my head, because that's how cold it felt. I'd never been in such cold water, but I told myself to put my head down, because it was a privilege for me to come and train with the private coach. And after the classes, they told me to continue coming as a motivator for the boy who was training to do Robbin Island swim. And I continued swimming with the boy, and something happened to his life, and he ended up going back on the street. And I was worried that also my swimming was going to end, because I was swimming because of him. And I just continued showing up every time I had to go swim. And one day, one of the sponsors said, "Arafat, what do you think of doing the Robbin Island swim?" With no hesitation, I said yes. And that's how the journey for me to train to swim from Robbin Island to Blobeg started.
Wow. Lots of questions come out of that, but yeah, that's it shows a lot about your mindset, that you got in a swimming pool, watched a video of an Olympian, and then said, "I'm going to swim to Robbin Island," even though in the sea, even though you didn't know how far it was. And but no, that's cool, definitely. I was going to ask you actually, and you started to answer it, kind of how you felt when you first got in the swimming pool, just kind of that first time where you said you're excited in playing, you weren't nervous at all. It was like, yeah, I want to get in there. It seems a natural environment for you.
So for me, it was more of the swimming pool. It was a special moment because it was my very first time being in a swimming pool. I'd never been in a swimming pool before.
Yeah.
and having that opportunity to go in, that is what excited me most. And I was really excited to be able to go and be in a swimming pool and play around in the water, and the realization of feeling the how it separated me from the outside world, from all the troubles that I had felt or that I was facing in the children's home. That is the main thing that for me attracted me to wanting to do it more and more.
Yeah. Certainly a feeling I can relate to. I love it. I love that the swimming pool, especially in modern life, when you're swimming, it's one of the few places nobody can get you. It's your own private space. It's like everywhere else, you've still got your phone, or you've still got somebody can able to access you, and whereas you're in the water, literally, nobody can get you. So, yeah, no, I like that, definitely. It was interesting when you were saying about the feeling of the cold water as well. There's a lot of people don't like the cold water, but particularly when, say, I've spent time, as you know, with a project, we're raising money to teach swimming in Uganda, in the Gambia, and certainly I know, when I've taken Gambians and Ugandans in the water, that's the first thing they say about it, how cold it is. So, I think that shows testament to how strong you are as well, because a lot of Africans will avoid the cold in my experience. So
it's always I don't know, it's an environment one is not used to, and it takes one to be willing to be out of the comfort zone. And you don't get used to it, but you can learn how to tolerate it. And when there is something about the cold water for me, it's not just about going in and swimming, it's just the energy as well that it brings with being in the ocean. It's not just about wanting to be in the cold water. That's why I don't swim with the wetsuit. I want to connect with that energy that I find in.
I like that. And you said you didn't know where Robbin Island was. Did you know anything about Robbin Island, its history? Was that why you wanted to do it, or was it just you'd heard of this big swim that people were doing and that was what you wanted to do?
It was basically the thing of wanting to do most things that were offered to you at the children's home. So swimming was offered, and then having to do a big challenge like that for me was to prove to myself and the boys that we could be able to achieve big things in life, because most of us just thought that a lot of people, that is the perception. They look at kids who live in a street children's home, we are like lesser human than other people. That's how people looked at us. And like literally a simple example, even getting a girlfriend was something that was really difficult for someone living in a children's home, because every time you speak to a girl and tell them, oh, I'm from a street children's home, they'll be like, oh, sorry, I don't want to do anything with you. So like those kind of small things, I wanted to break the barrier of how people saw kids in a children's home. When they saw kids in a street children's home, they would think, oh, drugs, or there's another criminal, and that is not the way it is. And you found that kids who live in those kind of homes, there is a bigger things at play than being on the street or using drugs. There is a lot of things that are happening in the background that causes kids ending up in a children's home. It's not that something that people just see and say, oh, this child is from the street. So I wanted to break the barrier of how people saw us and what we saw that we could do in the world. I wanted to show the boys that we can be able to achieve big things in life.
Awesome. That's so good. So inspirational, definitely. It could have been very easy just to sit there or focus on education, and which is still important, but like you say, you wanted to do something just different. Yeah, standing out. So cool. So you said it was the first time you've been in a swimming pool then. So is it unusual that you couldn't swim as a child, or is that quite common in the Congo? Is it unusual to swim?
So a lot of developed countries, you find they've got all these places where people can do different activities, but like you find swimming pools back home, like in expensive hotels, which not everyone had access to. And what would be in lakes and places, and no one will teach you how to swim. It will be a matter of you just going to stand in a place, and some kids would drown because they couldn't swim. So having a place that for me felt more safe was the one thing that was really nice about a swimming pool, because there's lifeguards, there's all those kind of things. But back home, like where there's a lake, there's no lifeguards. It's just you're a kid, you come and splash, and if you have a bad luck, you end up going a bit far where you cannot come out of. So yeah.
That's certainly something we're passionate about, and trying to work with communities of, like you say, creating safe places for children to learn to swim. I mean, it's our passion that learning to swim should be as important as learning to walk, because I mean, accidents happen, you know, children can fall into water, and everybody should have that basic water safety advice. But you're right, I mean, what's happened is we've created a space where developed countries have lots of swimming pools, and then developing countries don't, and they just don't learn at all. So it's a case of creating safe places. So that's something we'd like to continue talking to you about. So so from what you've said then, like, so teaching children to swim is a passion of yours then. Is that something you're involved in at all at the moment through the children's home still?
So like like when I did my first swim from Robbin Island to Blauberg, I didn't complete the first one. I got hypothermia. And then I did it again 3 weeks later and ended up completing it. And since then, since then I've been like, I've done various swims, and I've left the children's home. I left the children's home in 2015, and since then I wanted to give back to the children's home, but I didn't have money to give them, so I decided to take over the swimming program that they offered to us. And what I've done, I've now made it a bit bigger, where I get a lot of kids from different communities, where, like, underprivileged communities, where they don't get the opportunities to learn how to swim. So I'll teach them on Sundays. So I try to get them and try to get friends of mine to kind of like pay for their entry fees at the swimming pool and all those kind of things. Yeah, so I've taken over the swimming program and made it a little bit bigger to get more kids involved.
Excellent. That's so good. And that's so good, like I say, more children that wouldn't have the chance to learn to swim. You're giving back and expanding it as well. It's yeah. And have you had any help training as a teacher, or are you just doing it from what you've learned, passing on the techniques you've been taught?
I did the course for Learn to Swim, just as like, one has to do that, but a lot of it I learned from my coach, Mike Dirks is from Germany. He lives in South Africa now. He's really an amazing coach, and I've learned so much about swimming from him. And like, someone who was able to teach me how to swim from zero, and 11 months I was able to swim 7.5 kilometers in like 13 degrees, 14 degrees water. So I've learned so much from him. Yeah.
That's incredible. That is such an incredible progression and achievement. Yeah. And then what stroke did you do? I'm just curious, because you mentioned you wanted to learn butterfly. Did you master butterfly, or did you lower your...
I find it better and efficient to swim freestyle when you're doing long distance. But when I'm doing my training, I do mix different strokes.
Yeah, I just thought if you've done Robbin Island butterfly, that would be impressive. Oh, excellent. That's so good. So I suppose final question is, are you in lockdown at the moment? Are you able to swim? I suppose we're gonna...
I haven't swum for like 3 months now.
Yeah, that's the problem. We were going to ask if you got any other challenges or adventures planned or expanding the swim school, but I guess lots of stuff are on hold at the moment with lockdown, as we all
Yeah,
know.
so, but still, that doesn't stop one to prepare for some new adventures after lockdown. So there's a few swims that I have on my list, and one of them you won't believe, I want to do the English Channel sometime
Of course,
in the future.
everybody
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, so all I want to do is just try and find fundings for it because it's quite an expensive swim to do. So once I get that, I'll definitely be there and try to do my attempt.
Yeah. Oh, I would be very pleased to support you. Yeah, working
Yeah.
that one out. So, as you say, everything's on hold at the moment. I know a few people who were scheduled to do it this year, and it's just, yeah, all on hold. But it's still good to have
Yeah.
that in mind and work.
Definitely. You have to keep the dreams up and burning. You cannot just stop doing what you need to do because some things are not happening now. Life is going to get back to normal at some point, and when it does, one has to be ready to do what they want to do.
So I've thought one more question. So we've been talking to Beth French, who's done the Ocean 7, the first lady in the British lady to do the Ocean 7. And her aim was to do it in the year, in 1 year. But she said something interesting about she actually enjoys being in the water for a long length of time. But she said many other long distance swimmers don't actually enjoy the swim itself, but they enjoy, having done it. Do you actually enjoy the swim itself, or are you just glad when it's done? Or is it a bit of both, depending on the condition?
So when, like, I've gotten to spend so much time in the ocean, and it you it gets to have a different meaning when you, like, at least for me, it's gotten to have a different meaning to being in the ocean, because for me it came from doing the swims and completing to more of exploring what is in the ocean, because every swim is different and you get to see different things. Like, for example, I did a swim around Cape Point, and when I was doing the swim, I had never seen so many seals in my life. Like, every time I was swimming, there were hundreds of seals. And for me, the idea of being able to swim in such places is like so amazing. Although it's scary at the time, but still, the idea of you knowing that you're doing it is just incredible. So I do enjoy being in the water.
That's good. You're right. You never know what's going to come up. I remember one of my most memorable swims, but scary swims, was when I dove underneath with goggles on and saw a shark. And you just like, oh!
Yeah.
One of my most memorable swims. No, it wasn't a planned one. So, yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. So English Channel. Anything else? Do you plan any big swims, or is it just as you?
So I want to do a few other Robbin Island swims. So there is a lot of swims here in South Africa that one can do. There is one that I want to do from Anchor Bay to Robbin Island, which is about 12 kilometers. So that is also on my list. I wanted to do this year, but now due to lockdown and not swimming, so I have to wait for a little bit before one can do this swim.
And thinking about the children you're coaching, are they starting to have similar dreams and aspirations, or is it too soon yet?
Yeah,
Have they got their own lists of what they want to do?
Yes, actually, one of them lives at the homestead, the children's home that I stayed at. I taught him also from zero to swimming Robbin Island. He literally completed it in February. He did his first Robbin Island crossing and completed it. His first attempt, he even did greater than I did. My first attempt, I got up at Thamia when I was at 6 kilometers, but with his first attempt, he smashed it and completed it.
Wow, that's cool. I might see an Olympian open water swimmer at some
definitely.
Point. That would be a nice link to the story for sure. Cool. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. Certainly an inspirational story. So this film festival is all about inspiring people and raising awareness of the love of swimming and the importance of swimming and what the water can do for you, and it's certainly done a huge amount for you. So yeah, thank you for, and you're doing a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah, and you're doing a lot, passing it on, which is amazing.
That's what we have to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for your time.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
And yeah, we'd like to talk again sometime. Cool.
Okay.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.